What's up, everybody? Hope you guys doing well. Today, we'll be talking about trucking, dispatching. We'll be talking about the business model. And last time we did the Q&A where you guys ask questions. Obviously, we get 5 or 6 questions, and then we start the conversation. But we will do today slightly little bit different. How is going to happen, I will tell you right now. I prepared slides. I got the questions, meaning the common questions where people ask, let's say all the time, hey, what about the paperwork process? What about, let's say, how we get loads from Loadboard, how to use Loadboard, how to access Loadboard. So these are the common questions. And again, if you guys have those questions in mind, if you wanted to ask, please write your questions in the comment section or the chat, whatever you see. Just post them here while I'm going over the questions. And if you have your questions, I will take your questions. I'll display here, and we will take it from there. So why don't I start the slides? Let me go there real quick. I'll hide myself so you can see the slides perfectly. I'll do like this. And then I'll go here and make it the start from the beginning. Let's do this. Okay, so I hope you guys see this. This is where the question number 1. So I have a couple of questions here. And again, if you have questions, please let me know. Do you guys see? Please let me know that you guys see the question number 1, how truck dispatchers get paid. We'll be talking about numbers, obviously, talking about the business model. Before I begin, please just post any question, any comment saying, hey, we see, yes, number 1 question or anything like that. Let me know that you guys see. What's the best way to run a power-only truck? We'll get there in D. I have these questions. The common questions, I will go over these questions, and then I'll come back at the end. We'll give about like 10-15 minutes, and then I will be taking questions like these. So please write those questions, let them come in, and then I will just go start talking about or answering these questions. These are the common questions, as I said. So let's start with the question number 1. And again, let coming those questions, okay? Now, one of the common questions, how dispatchers get paid. There are many ways to get paid, but I'll just dive right in and explain how you can get paid by, let's say, the secure way. Secure way meaning where you will get paid 100%. So carriers won't just let you down. They won't disappear without paying you. So the option number 1 is, this is where you for sure know that carriers will pay. The other payment option is, or we can say the second payment option will be, this is where you have your own system and you sending invoice to your carrier. So we'll be talking about 2 options. So let's begin with the question number 2, actually. So this is where you have your own system, you have the carrier, you're working with the carrier, meaning you have dispatcher carrier agreement in place, everything is up and running, and now you want to get paid. You dispatch loads. I don't know if you wanted to get paid like daily, weekly, bi-weekly, or per month. Well, usually what it happens is at the end of the week, this is where the dispatchers send invoices to their carrier so that they can get paid. Now, if you're working, I'll talk about the option number 1. This is where you will be uploading your documents, the paperwork, the rate confirmation, and bill of lading. This is, or the proof of delivery. This is where you get paid, let's say, daily or the right next day, meaning you get paid quickly. So the option number 2. Option number 2 is, this is where you have your your system sending invoice to your carrier saying, hey, these are the loads that I dispatched. This is from Atlanta to Houston. This load number, let's say 22224. And then I have load from Charlotte, North Carolina goes to Tampa, Florida. This load number is 45, 46, 47. And then I have a load from New York to, let's say, Phoenix, Arizona. That you also, on the invoice, you basically describing how much was the load and how much, let's say, you charging for the dispatcher, for the carrier, and you have this breakdown on the invoice and you're sending your invoice. How are you going to send invoice? There are many online, let's say, invoice options, but some people get really simple with these, like sending, there are many, I would say, free online tools where you can, send invoice to your carriers. So I'm assuming that when you pick, let's say, the option number 2, you have everything in place, meaning you have this, in your contract saying, hey, whenever I send invoice, I'll be deducting this money or charging or running transaction to this credit card or debit card in file or whatever. I don't know how you're going to set up, but this is basically saying, I dispatch these loads and here's the invoice, and you just make a payment. People use PayPal, people use Stripe, I've seen a lot of dispatchers using QuickBooks, sending links to your carrier, and then carrier, pays using, let's say they receive a link. It says, hey, here's an invoice. They click on an invoice. They will see everything right in front of them on their phone, on their computer. It doesn't matter. The breakdown. And then there's a link for the payment, and they will click and they will, make the, payment. So that's option number 2. So the secure way, the sure way, let's say, so that you will get paid and then carriers won't let you down and they will not run away without paying you. This is actually working with the factoring company. So when you work with the factoring company, let's say the OTR solution, you work with OTR solution, and your carrier works with the OTR solution, and then you're using this tool that they developed, meaning OTR solution developed a awesome tool for dispatchers. And also we did a interview with OTR in our paid membership, and they did the demo. It's an awesome tool. So basically what you're doing is you're uploading your rate confirmation and proof of delivery, and what OTR does is like they're taking care of everything for you. Okay, so you're not worried about anything. What OTR will do, or the factoring company will do, they will deduct whatever the percentage you're charging to your carrier. They will put that money in the escrow balance, and then they will be, depositing or doing the ACH to your bank account. So this is how the dispatchers get paid. But I'm assuming that you know how to dispatch, meaning how to use a load board, what is rate confirmation, the proof of delivery, and everything. So once you know that, everything is easy. So this how the dispatchers get paid. So moving on to question number 1, should I get carriers first or build a relationship with brokers? This is a common question, and maybe you have this question in mind. So it's like, should I get the carrier first? Listen, when you start talking to brokers, let's say you have load board access. When you're talking to a broker, the number one reason you're talking to a broker is to negotiate the load and dispatch to your carrier. So that means you must have a carrier in order to talk to a broker. But there's some people might say, hey, listen, I want to just get the experience, talk to these brokers. Even then, the brokers will require to have an MC in order to give you like any information about the load. So this is where you must have carriers first, or a carrier first, in order to talk to the broker. So this is how it works. The other way around, when you have a dispatching company and you like, I will be talking to this, brokers. Well, some brokers will talk to you, but most of them talk to you, meaning talking to a dispatching company. So they're well aware of dispatching companies out there. So there are a lot of people running independent freight dispatching agencies. They know and they well informed about how the business model works. So what they will do is like, okay, I need a carrier. So if you have carriers, then obviously we need an MC to talk about the load. I will give you the information. So most of them, they won't. But if you like, I wanted to get some experience talking to them and maybe do some carrier setup or anything like that. But listen, even though if you wanted to do a carrier setup, you must have a carrier first. But if you wanted to talk to a broker, if you have a load board access, more than welcome to talk to those brokers. But hey, listen, it will be tough because they require carriers and they want to work with carriers. Since independent freight dispatchers have this dispatcher carrier agreement, and basically you're becoming a carrier. So you're representing a carrier. Carrier have no problem talking to his brokers. To answer this question, should I have carriers first or build a relationship with brokers? This is actually, you need carriers first to build a relationship with carriers. And this is how you're going to build a relationship, by actually talking to a broker, asking about the load. And the first, they will require an MC number from the carrier that you represent. And this is how the conversation will start, right? So carriers first and build a relationship with brokers come second. So this is the second question. The third question, and again, I pulled these questions from students, from members. I emailed to my email list and asking question, and I saw these are the most common questions by people who are in the dispatching, or people who wants to go into the dispatching, or they're starting their dispatching businesses, maybe fairly new into the game. So do owner-operators really need dispatching services when they can book their own loads with apps like DAT or Loadboards? And by the way, when I said that we get these questions from students, I really mean it. We did not even make like corrections or add things, anything like that. What we did is we just copied and pasted. Okay, so do owner-operators really need dispatching services? That's the first part of the question. And obviously we can also talk about when they can book their own loads. They have this DAT load board on their it's an app on their phone. They can dispatch themselves, meaning booking loads for themselves. Listen, owner operator, the life of an owner operator, or job or duties on an owner operator. First thing you need to understand that these people are busy. They're super duper busy, right? What they do is they're picking up the loads. They're always on the road. They're securing the load. There's a lot of labor involved, right? So some owner operators, they might do it, but think about, this is an external help. This is where they need a dispatcher so they can find loads, book loads, talking to brokers. And trust me, I was a carrier and I know most of the owner operators, they don't want to talk to brokers. What they really wanted to do is basically pick loads, secure loads, deliver loads, and get paid. That's what they want. The peace of mind, right? The peace of mind is the key in this game. So now the second part of the question, when they can book loads. Well, yes, they can book loads. They have MC, they have DOT, they have everything. They're the carriers. And DAT work, or the major load boards like Truck Stop and DAT, they work with brokers and the carrier, so they have no problem giving access to the carrier, right? So even though they can book themselves, and again, so the peace of mind is the name of the game here. So they wanted to pick loads, deliver loads, they drive, they don't want to talk to anybody. That's how it works. So this is where you come in. So they will prefer working with dispatchers. So then question number 4, I don't have any truck, and this is actually one of our members asked, I don't have any truck. Is it possible to create an independent truck dispatching company without buying a truck? So basically this member asked about, hey, I want to start my independent freight dispatching agency, providing my dispatching services, but I'm not sure if I wanted to buy a truck. The reason why they say is maybe they're thinking about an MC number. So since independent freight dispatchers, the MC number is not required. So, and obviously you don't need any equipment, meaning you don't need a truck or a trailer. So if you have truck and trailer, then what's happening? You must have an MC in order to operate this truck. So once you apply for an MC, and MC stands for motor carrier, what's happening? So basically you becoming a carrier. Okay? So hope that helps. So now that means you don't need a truck, you don't need a trailer. Dispatchers using carriers equipment to deliver the freight, right? And again, you're not owning the freight. This load is not yours, or any load is not yours. It's basically the carrier takes the responsibility of the load. So you're helping the carrier, and you don't need any MC, any DOT or truck or equipment to run your independent freight dispatching agency. So hope that helps. And again, let's go to question number 5. How can I get carriers or trucking companies, and what is the legal agreement process before I start working with them? This is an awesome question. We took this question from the Facebook group that we have, the closed Facebook group. So how you can get carriers, trucking companies, actually they're the same thing, the carriers, right? And the legal agreement. So we'll talk about the legal process. How you get carriers is actually by marketing your services, meaning you just raising your hand saying, hey, I'm an independent freight dispatcher and I'm looking for carriers to dispatch. Okay, so basically you're out there putting content specifically nowadays. Think about YouTube channel, think about Instagram account, think about TikTok. You need to create, and this is the by far the best option to have, like create TikTok account and then create videos or short form videos and putting the content out there, and this is how you market your services. I do have people when they talking about this flyers, like marketing materials, they're going like physically to the truck stop, they're talking to owner operators. Listen, you don't need to do that. It's because you're limited as far as like time goes, the time and the energy and everything. Think about online. Use online to get carriers. So the first part of the question, how you get carriers, is by actually marketing it. How you're going to market your services is actually putting content out there. So what's the legal process? There is a piece of document which is really important in freight dispatching business. This is a dispatcher carrier agreement. This is the agreement that you must have between your carrier and you, meaning your company. And this is basically it. This is like that document is basically legally binding you to a carrier and a carrier to your services. And on that document, you basically state everything that you're going to do for a carrier. And obviously, carrier gives you the limited power of attorney. So in simple words, limited power of attorney means that, hey, I'm a carrier and I'm giving you the limited use of, like, I'll give you the permission, but there's a limited, obviously, access to my company. I'll give you my company in order to book loads. That's what it is, the limited power of attorney. So that's how it goes. The legal agreement, and obviously how we get carriers by marketing it, right? So let's go to question number 6. How can I work from my country? Meaning this, question comes from the person who is overseas, not in the U.S. For most non-U.S. residents, it's getting tougher and tougher and harder to work from outside the US. And the reason why I say this is because now major load board companies, like let's talk about specifically DAT, since the recent fraud activity is that they're obviously fighting back with these scammers, and they are now limiting access, not to give access to overseas. There were a lot of accounts created overseas. There are many countries around the globe, and obviously now what DAT does is just basically limiting access. So now, since the load board is specifically for the US market, and that's what they're focusing on right now, it's the for the US residents, basically. So you can have access, and some of my students, they have access, and what they're doing is actually they're working with a carrier, and carrier gives the access to a load board, whatever, and then they dispatch. But if you're talking about the legal aspect of how you create your company, legal company in the US, well, and again, this is a quick disclaimer that, hey, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a lawyer, so you need to hire a lawyer for this professional help, the business help. But what I know is, like, you're using a registered agent in the US. This is basically the company acts on your behalf, and you can use their the physical address, and then they will be actually managing all the paperwork for you. So, well, obviously there is a cost. Now, what I'm trying to say is that, yes, you can work from your home country, but it's getting harder and harder. So it's basically, nowadays, it's very tough to get access to a load board, and convincing carriers, since there is a time difference, might be an issue. But hey, there are a lot of dispatchers out there. They're working overseas. They're awesome companies, and they're helping US-based companies to make hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's how it goes. The question number 6, and now we have question number 7. Do we find carriers first before we contact any shippers or brokers? I think we got this already, but the number one reason why I put this question here, because of the shipper. And again, remember I said we didn't modify, we didn't edit anything like that. We just pick, copy, and paste here. Okay? So do we find carriers first before we contact any shippers? Brokers. Yes, you must have a carrier. So now for dispatchers, the number one priority is to have a carrier. So the number one, the requirement, have the carrier first. Okay. So another thing that I really wanted to kind of, make this, well, you need to pay attention to one thing, which is really, really important when it comes to a shipper and dispatchers talking to shippers. Understand that and again, repeating, it's not legal dispatching company contacting shippers saying that, hey, I have a carrier. You cannot do that. It's illegal. You cannot do that. Okay. Why? Because it's a broker's job. Broker has a broker MC, and he represents shippers as well as carriers. You, as a dispatching company, you represent only carriers. That's all. So can you contact with shippers? No, you cannot do that. Carrier must contact shipper. Hey, as a dispatcher, since I'm representing a carrier, since I have this legal agreement between us, can I call a shipper on carrier's behalf? Yes, you can call on carrier behalf. Why? Because basically you are the carrier, right? So you're calling on, let's say, I'll give you an example. If I have a company, if I'm a carrier, and we have this dispatcher carrier agreement, and you're representing my company, and I have, let's say, in Georgia, shippers that I wanted to contact, since I can't contact, I'm busy, I'm, buying trucks, adding trucks, doing marketing or anything like that. I don't have time to call these shippers. And I'm like, hey, I need your help to contact these shippers on my behalf, meaning you mentioning my company, mentioning my MC, and you're saying that, hey, I'm calling on behalf, or I'm calling from Prime Express, and because Prime Express is a carrier, right? And we want to move your freight or your loads. That's basically the simple version, right? I'm simplifying like what you need to do. But remember, very important is that you as a dispatching company, you cannot call shippers. It's illegal. Okay. Hope that helps. Moving on to the question number 8. So far, so good. You guys, getting value out of this. So if you do, please write those questions or any concerns, comments, anything you have. I'll do my best to help. Okay. So question number 8. To become an independent dispatcher, do I need to open LLC? Meaning, do I have to have the LLC? Yes. And for some people, it will be like, oh, wow, well, I didn't know that. Well, some people will say, oh, no, you don't need your LLC. No, it's not required. Or I read, the comments on Facebook, on YouTube. Listen, it's an FMCSA rule is that if you wanted to, and it states that dispatching companies must have a legal agreement between dispatching company and a carrier. So in order to have a dispatching company, that means you need to have your LLC, right? So you can work for a carrier as an employee. You don't need LLC, right? So basically the LLC is limited liability company that you must have. Why? Because you basically becoming like a B2B. You're representing a carrier. Dispatching, loads, helping. You basically selling the service, meaning you selling the dispatching service to a carrier. And it's very, very important that you must have your company. Okay. So if somebody says that you don't need LLC, that means that person don't know what they're talking about. Okay. So what you simply do is just go and read the rules by FMCSA, and you can clearly see that you must have a company in order to dispatch. Cool. We're good. Moving on to the question. And again, this is one of the questions from the Facebook group. I'm outside the US. Does that mean I can dispatch, US truck drivers if I'm not a citizen? And again, we already responded to this question. And again, if the reason why I put this question here, because of the citizenship, right? The people might think that, hey, I need to become a US resident in order to dispatch. No, you don't. You don't need to become a US resident. And again, so if you're watching this like a replay after the live session, just go back. I already responded to a question. Can you work outside the US? So number 10, the question number 10, and how do you get access to load boards without having a DOT or MC number? So here is the deal. Since we talked about this already, dispatchers don't need MC and DOT in order to dispatch. But it doesn't mean that, hey, you can easily have access to a load board without DOT and MC. It was no issue, about a year back, maybe 2 years back, no issues. DAT was giving, we even worked with the DAT to create a self-sign-up process. We talked about this in this YouTube channel already, but what you could have done is just go to DAT, and then obviously there was option. I have no MC, no DOT, or I'm a dispatcher, and this is how you would have signed up. But then they removed that option because of the recent, scammers, right? The scam going on with the DAT, and obviously DAT now removed that option in order to limit access. Okay, so what happened now? Now DAT was dispatcher friendly. Now it became like semi-friendly, right? They actually trusted dispatchers. I'm not talking about, there are some people out there, they literally ruined everything, right? And because of them, a lot of dispatchers now, they cannot access to these load boards. Well, TruckStop it's not dispatcher friendly. The only dispatching friendly load board was DAT. And since these scammers attacked, done all sorts of things, and they said, oh no, we see that most of these scammers are freight dispatchers, and they removed and they blocked it, did whatever they want, and they now limited access, right? So now you cannot access without DOT and MC. That means now how you're going to access. Now DAT says this is one of the reasons why I said semi dispatch friendly. Why? Because now they have two requirements. Number one, that you must have a company in the US. That's the number one. The second is you must have a carrier in order to get access to the DAT. Even then, it's not easy to get access. Some people manage to get the load board, meaning they have the company in the US. They're outside the US, but they have the company in the US. And I already explained how you can, do that. Then second is they have the carrier and they get access. But now it's really hard to get. Even if you have these requirements, it takes about a month or longer to get access. And again, the reason why, because now they're basically doing the background check. That's what's happening, right? They don't want to give, they meaning DAT, they don't want to give access to everybody. So that's what's happening. Is that cool? Moving on to the next question. As soon as we're finished, then I'll start taking the questions. So I just started my LLC. That means this person already applied for LLC and got their LLC. What else do I need in order to start my independent dispatching services? Now you have your LLC. What to me is, before you have your LLC, you must have the training. Like, you must know how to dispatch loads. Like, LLC is the easiest part in becoming a dispatcher or starting your dispatching agency. That's the easiest aspect of this, okay, of this business model. So you started LLC, or this person started the LLC, but now what else do I need in order to start my independent dispatching services? Well, first thing first, always the skill comes first, right? You need to know ins and outs of a load board. You know how to dispatch. You know how to talk to a broker, what to say, what not to say, right? What brokers love to hear, what brokers hate to hear, right? So when you know the process, the paperwork process and everything, now you're creating your LLC. Simply, when you have your LLC, have your skill, and you're ready to rock and roll, and this is where you start marketing your services, right? And we talked about this. So the next step is to get a carrier. What else do I need in order to start my independent freight dispatching services? Right? I'm assuming you have the skill. Now, assuming that it's up and running LLC already, the third step is to get a carrier so we can start dispatching. How we get carrier? And we talked about this, by marketing it. How to market is basically, putting content out there and attracting carriers. That's how it's done. Okay, let's go. Question number 12. How many hours does a dispatcher stay on the load board each day? Great question. So it depends. Dispatcher to dispatcher, how many trucks, this dispatcher dispatches, and obviously the size of the company, right? So if it's a one-man show and I have about 5 trucks, you spending at least about 10 hours each day, in about 10 to 11 hours. I would easily can say 12 hours. That means from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Usually that's how it's done. You sitting, running in front of the computer, looking at the load board, because if you have this DAT, the expensive, I would say the subscription, let's say DAT One Select, is about about $180. And you have a live feed. Live feed meaning when brokers post load, you see those loads, pop up. And it's like first come, first serve, right? You must be there when the carrier posts a load so that you can start calling right away so you can get that load. So if you say average, I would say average is about 10 hours. 10 hours each day, Monday through Friday. And basically you staring at a computer all day long. That's how it's done. But then if you wanted to build a business, we're not recommending that you work in the business, but we recommend that you build a system, hire people, and work on the business instead of working in the business. So hope that helps. Going to the question number 13. As a dispatcher, who is going to pay the dispatcher's commission? Will it come from the factoring company or the carrier? So remember at the beginning of this live training, we talked about like two ways. I think it was the number one question. Yes, it was the number one question. So you can, go back to, watch the question number one. You have basically two options to get paid: by the factoring company and by the carrier. So you have two options, but your commissions come from the carrier. Okay. So the factoring company in this case, basically distributing your funds, basically taking the money from carrier's escrow balance or account and then basically depositing into your account. So that's how the system works. Now, question number 14: what are the differences between a broker, carrier, and independent dispatcher? Great question. Broker is a middleman. Let's talk about the players in the game. We have shippers, meaning manufacturers. These people have loads. Let's think about that. And we have brokers. These are the carriers. Carriers, these people have trucks, right? So trucks meaning the equipment, actually, where we, put the loads on, right? So we have the trailer, obviously the different types of trailers, and the trucks. So carrier. Third one is the middleman. The middleman is the broker. The broker represents carrier and the shipper. Okay, so that's the middleman, the broker, and then the independent freight dispatcher. So independent dispatcher, it plays a crucial role in the trucking. So independent freight dispatchers represent carrier, meaning they help finding loads that been posted by the broker, where the broker gets loads from a shipper, and they they post loads on a platform called Loadboards like DAT Truck Stop. So this is how the system works. There's four players: shippers, brokers, carriers, and independent freight dispatchers. And this is how they different. And there are regulations in between. We talked about one of them, that independent dispatchers, it's illegal to talk to a shipper. It's a regulation. Why? If you wanted to talk to a shipper as a freight dispatcher, then you must become a broker, because it's a broker job. So, okay, everyone, should know the responsibility. Is that cool? You guys getting, value out of this? It's awesome. Let's continue. Question number 15: is there still a lack of dispatchers? Or are there already too many in the industry? Listen, this is a question about, is the market saturated, meaning dispatchers? There are many people come into the game, as well as there are a lot of dispatchers, they're moving out of the game, right? Meaning, let's say there are like 10 dispatching companies go into the industry, and about 80% or 90% of them, they go out of the business. Why? The number one thing, they cannot find a carrier. If they find a carrier, they cannot deliver. So if they deliver, they cannot retain the customer. There are a lot of things go into this, but again, not many people survive in this game as independent freight dispatchers, right? So you need to be pro at it, meaning pro at using load boards, pro at communicating with brokers, communicating with carriers, drivers. So there's no such a thing like lack of dispatchers. There's like not enough dispatchers, but maybe there are enough dispatchers out there, maybe not enough dispatchers. But what I'm trying to say is that it's not saturated. Why? Well, think about carriers. How many carriers each day go to FMCSA and look for new MC numbers? Like, you'll be scared. There a lot of people go into the business. Well, at the same time, there are a lot of people go out of business, meaning they can't find loads. They thought about, it will be easy if I buy a truck and trailer. There's a load board. Then they have the access to a load board. They see that it's already trash. Brokers don't pay well. There are a lot of things going on, and then market is crashed. The inflation, what have you. So, and they go out of business. It's same thing with brokers. Brokers think, it's a very lucrative business. I can go find carriers, and then I'll go ahead and find shippers. Hey, I'll have an awesome life. I don't need to buy a truck or trailer. Well, hell no. Well, it's really hard, first of all, to market your brokerage company to get shippers. Like, shippers, they're not, they're not kids, right? They have a lot of experiences. They previously worked with brokers, and now they know, and they're very picky, right? So if you're obviously new and you don't maybe know what you're talking about, if you're not established brokerage company, it's very, very hard to get a customer. In this case, shipper. It's very hard to get a shipper on board, right? So because of that, most people who are excited about being a broker, they go and see that, oh, wow, it's actually not easy to find, shippers, and they go out of business. So market is not saturated, in short. Now, question number 16, is there some type of certification I need to become a freight dispatcher? The certification, we're not talking about here, I think, the legal certificates. Should I attend college or university? Do I have to study logistics or trucking or transportation? No, you don't. You don't need to do that. The certification, will help if you take, let's say, the courses, the coaching program, or somebody taught you how to dispatch and they write the letter of recommendation, which is I do. And then obviously, giving the certificate, meaning, hey, you complete the course. And on top of that, hey, here's the letter of recommendation from the owner of the company. And we recommend this person. Why? Because we taught this person ins and outs of a load board, everything in between. Cool? So that's the certification we're talking about here. Question number 17, do I need to go to work for a company to gain some experience first, or can I just start working for myself? We had a live training in my free group that I have, and one of the members asked this exact same question. Well, you can obviously work for a company if you have, friends and families in this business, and you can call, one of your friends and say, hey, I want to learn dispatching. And hey, listen, this is how I started. I asked one of my friends who can, teach me how to dispatch, right? I started with car hauling business. So I was just like working for him for about, for 6 months. First 3 months, I was just working for free, learning ins and outs of a load board, talking to, brokers, talking to drivers, learning how to manage the company. So yes, it's awesome if you have, but if you don't, then obviously the best option will be starting your business and start marketing your services and get a carrier and start delivering the services. But I hear you. Well, I'm scared. Well, I don't feel comfortable because I don't have skills or experience. I don't know, what if I fail? Well, think about even if you have an experience. I'll give you a personal, example here. My example. Even if you have an experience, you can still fail carrier. It's common. Sometimes you will do a great job for a carrier, and carrier will disappear for no reason. Just understand this. This is trucking. Anything at any given moment can happen. This is how the system works. So you can be number one pro dispatcher. I'm telling you, you're working with this carrier, and carrier will disappear for no reason. You will call this carrier, and he's not responding, and you didn't do anything wrong. So imagine, like, I was working right after, like, working for one of my friends, and I started my carrier side of the business. I should have done things differently, but this is what I did. I bought the first truck and the Cottrell 7-car trailer and started dispatching. And then I started hiring, let's say, getting owner operators. Excuse me. And I, failed it. Why? Because talking to your drivers is totally different than talking to your owner operator. They demand differently. They have different psychology. Well, that's what's happening, right? So I failed it. first one and I failed second one, and then on third one I learned how to talk to them, what they need from me exactly, right, and how to communicate, with them properly, so that I can keep them or retain them. Uh, yeah, that's see, like I had about 6 to 7 month training already, so I literally on the job. I was working. I implemented. I know ins and out. Like I know everything, right? Even then, I failed my first career, then second career. So same thing here. And like if I were you, like I'll start with my, dispatching company and get the career and start, dispatching. Hey, if you failed it, you learned it. As long as you're not giving up, you're good to go, right? So hope that helps. Moving on to this question. So I think I'll take two more questions. Um, like we'll get to the 20th question and then we'll stop, and then I'll start taking your questions if you want me to. So, and again, this is, do I need an MC to have dispatching company? And again, one of the reasons, although they seems like almost identical questions, but here the analogy or the idea is different. Do I need an MC to have a dispatching company? And I asked this specifically to this person and said, no, Kamal, what I'm trying to say, it's not like, hey, do dispatchers need MC in order to dispatch? But I'm saying that, hey, in order to have my LLC, do I need MC? I said, oh, wow. So now it's different. So this is, now I know where you're coming from. No, you do not need MC, right, in order to get your company, meaning getting your LLC. So you don't need MC. So MC stands for motor carrier. And again, this number is specifically for carriers. If you want to become a carrier, you need to obtain this number or the MC number. Okay? So in short, no, you don't need MC to have a dispatching company. Okay? Let's go to the question. Well, I think this is an awesome question. 19, is insurance required for starting a dispatching business? Insurance, it's not required as far as I know. Meaning, this is the question where dispatchers ask, they're concerned about what will happen if the carrier, something happens to the load, right? What if the carrier damages the load? Well, listen, broker assign loads to your carriers, not to the dispatching company, right? Well, simply they can't do that legally. Why? Because you don't have MC. And why MC is important here? Because MC, in order to activate your MC, you must have an insurance. So insurance policy is attached to an MC. You must have an active insurance in order to activate the MC. If you don't have an insurance, you don't have an active MC number, that means you can operate. Okay? Now, what you can do is ask your carrier so that you can be added as a certificate holder as well as additionally insured. Now you protect yourself under the carrier's insurance umbrella. Think about that way. Okay? So you don't need an insurance to start the dispatching business, but when you have a carrier, when you having the, let's say, signing the legal agreement, this policy should be there, and you ask your carrier so that they can add your dispatching company as a certificate holder, as well as additionally insured, so that you will be protected. Okay? So last question. How long does it take to finish the dispatch training? Any training out there, a lot of people teach nowadays dispatching. Some people, and by the way, let me say this, like this is 100% honesty, total transparency. I do see a lot of people, watch a couple of videos on YouTube, maybe take a couple of courses here and there, and they never dispatch themselves. They never, ever logged into a load board, and they start teaching the dispatching. Just be careful. Just, run some background check, do the research. But when it comes to how long does it take to finish the training, it all depends on the training. I have, 5-week program, and then I have a week-long program. Some people have 3-week live training. Some people can say like you can become in 30 days. You can get up and running with dispatching, but it all depends who teaches, what type of, is it just like self-paced pre-recorded videos, or this is a live training with the mentor teaching you, like everything in between. So it all depends. But in short, if you wanted to become a dispatcher, it shouldn't take more than a week. The reason why I say this is because in order to get this skill, it shouldn't take more than, week, meaning 7 days or 8 days or something like. We'll give it a take 10 days. It shouldn't take that long. Okay, meaning you actually know what is dispatching, know the paperwork process, how to use a load board, how to talk to a broker, carrier, anything in between. It shouldn't take more than 10 days. Okay, but building a business, this is an ongoing process. This is where a lot of people get confused. Like, oh, can I get up and running with your program within a couple weeks? Well, I don't know. I have students, they get up and running within 2 to 3 weeks. I have some students, they cannot get up and running within, like, I don't know, within a year. For some people, it takes long or longer. For some people, it takes, I don't know, maybe they know a little bit of a dispatching. I have one of my students from Georgia, in Rome, Georgia. She didn't know anything about dispatching, and within 30 days, she got the carrier and she started her LLC and started dispatching. But like, how long does it take to finish the dispatching training is very, very different than how long will it take to get up and running with my dispatching company. So, and again, coming back to this question, training could be anywhere between a week long up to a 5 week long or even 8 week program. I do see people have 8 week program on, I don't know what they're teaching in 8 weeks, but maybe it's like a hardcore, coaching program where, like, hey, here's the load board. We'll be talking about this load board for a week. We'll be dispatching loads, and then for another week we'll be dispatching to brokers. Talking to brokers. Another week we'll be talking to carriers. Another week will be marketing, sales. This is how we build the website, anything like that. Then yes, it could take up to 5 weeks or 8 weeks. Okay, so 8 weeks meaning give or take like 2 months training. Hope that helps, guys. Let me go back to and start taking the questions you guys have. Let me pull this in. Let me do this. Let's do even like this, and let me start taking the question. I think this one, D asked, excuse me, D asked this question: what's the best way to run power only truck? To like straightforward answer this question, I'm not specialized in the power only truck. But what I see, the power only people work with Amazon, since these people have their the load, and then they give you the load board so that you can pick loads and for your trucks. That's what I know. But again, when it comes to power only, I'm very limited because I never worked, I never had a power only business model. So hope that helps. Let me take this question. Can you walk me through the process of preparing a carrier packet? Preparing a carrier packet meaning you have the carrier, okay? Carrier packet meaning now you will be, you have the broker, and the broker asks for the carrier packet. If that's the question, so that's the reason why I say this, because you said carrier packet. Now, your carrier will give you all the documents you need in order to get, the broker. What is it? The carrier broker agreement. Get on the broker's, let's say, system. So, in order to get set up with the broker, you must have the documents, meaning the carrier packet from the carrier. So I'll give you an example. If you're an independent freight dispatching company and I'm a carrier, and then I will be on the day, like first day where we agreed on, like we'll be working with you, I'll send you my carrier packet. And carrier to carrier, it's different, documents, but it's basically carrier will give you all the documents, and then you can sign up with the broker. So hope that helps. Let me take this question. It's kind of interesting. What is it? Get a trailer reefer is Or van power only doesn't pay that great? Not clear about the question, but then trailer meaning instead of doing power only, get a reefer trailer or a van trailer or let's say flatbed trailer, and you can make money if you have a trailer. I think that's a statement. I think we're. Let me see this one. What is the biggest issue a truck dispatcher will run into? Is it is this question when like a day-to-day operation, or this is when the question is good but it's not specific. I'm thinking like, okay, where should I pick? Like it's like a day-to-day. The number one issue in a day-to-day operation will be finding loads, right? Your carrier wants to move and then he's sitting for about 2 to 3 days, you can't find loads. The number one problem I think the dispatch will run into, and I was there, I know the number one problem for me was finding actually loads. What I mean by that is finding good loads. Good loads meaning good paying loads for a carrier. So that was the number one or the biggest issue that I had when I was a dispatcher, is finding loads for the carrier. So that's, hope that answers your question. Um, Let me take another D's question. I've been using Loadboard. Okay, for my driver, we had our ups and downs. Well, it's a business, it happens. But I'm looking for a better way. I've been talking him into renting a van. Now, basically, you now consulting him, saying, "Hey, whatever the trailer he has, I don't know because you did not specify." But they're like, "Hey, we need to like get a van instead of let's say reefer or the flatbed." Well, think about this: when you consult, that means you must know the market first in order to like consult this carrier that hey, we need to switch the market from flatbed. Now we're going to van market. Van market could be easy, but then maybe they don't pay much, right? But then when you go to the flatbed could be labor intensive. So you got the idea, right? So before consulting, think about like drive-in market. Okay, hope that helps. Let me see. Okay, so here's a question: how can I get more carriers? That means you have a carrier and now you need to get more carriers. Okay, so how can I get more carriers? To me is that you have carriers and you need or you want more carriers. The simple response or the basic or the quickest response for this, I would say, if you have a carrier, what have you done to get that carrier? Do more of that and you get more carriers. So I saw your videos about getting more carriers, but I couldn't find the carriers list. Can you please suggest some other way? The only way I think that works best right now is putting content out there showing that you can do it, and then build the trust so they can trust you, and they will obviously reach out to you, and that's how it goes. I'll give you an example. I teach people. We have this paid membership. Inside, I teach how to let's say put content on TikTok, leveraging basically TikTok for your business for the marketing purposes. And I basically like literally show them all the requests, all the DMs that are coming from carriers, and I even show the like actual text and screenshot it and showing to them saying, "Hey, see like what's happening. This is what carriers like. Hey, I'm in this market, I'm in that market, I'm desperately in need and a dispatcher and that." And dispatchers like, "Wow, we need carriers, we can't find carriers," but then there are a lot of carriers out there that they want or looking for. They're in pain looking for dispatchers. And by the way, when I say carriers looking for dispatchers, they're looking for good pro dispatcher. They're really good at what they're doing. That's what I'm saying when I say dispatcher. I'm not talking about this guy who watched a couple of videos on YouTube here and there, maybe took a couple of training and he never dispatch. I'm not talking about those. There are a ton of those people out there. And obviously carriers, once they start talking to a dispatcher, they quickly can identify, well, is it the pro, is it like a season, or is it like brand new, or this is like is not or this person doesn't know anything about dispatching. Okay. So hope that helps. And again, if you guys have questions, please let them coming. Let me take this one. Do you recommend any software that helps dispatchers handling and tracking and keeping everything under control while dispatching multiple carriers, drivers? Yes, I do recommend. And again, we did with the OTR solution, we did a interview, and they did OTR solution developed a software. Think about CRM for specifically carriers and dispatchers. You can have multiple carriers, and you can upload all the documents you need. You can see in one place. You can track. You can do everything. And again, in order to use that tool, the process need to be in place. Like there, a couple of documents needs to be signed. You should be working with the factoring company, and you must bring that carrier over to them. Yes, that's how it goes. But again, if you have a carrier, I don't know more specifically. Well, I do know more specifically for dispatchers by the factoring company. But the awesome tool that I know and I used when I was a carrier and a dispatcher, I used ITS Dispatch by Truckstop. So, and again, Truckstop is not dispatcher friendly. They're carrier and brokers friendly. Okay, so you must have a carrier in order to use that tool. It's an awesome tool. You can use multiple, and whatever you wanted to do is actually they have that. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. If you guys have questions, let me know. But I'll just quickly go and see if I did miss any question. I'll take in and answer that question. I don't see any questions. So far so good. We're good. No more questions. We've done all the questions. Awesome, guys. Thank you. And again, if you need more training, so I have the link below. There's a free group you can join. And you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll take it from there. And we do these live training every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you, guys. Take care.